The DM wanted to run a one-shot set in our ongoing campaign for myself and a mutual friend. We were playing in Pathfinder 1st Edition as an artificer and an alchemist. The DM also had a character present, as it was a shared world that we traded DMing responsibility for. They were playing a monk. Our group had just established a mercenary guild in town. What we hadn't realized was that there was already a group of mercenaries there, and they were angry because we were trying to steal their work. The boss of the rival guild proposed a one-on-one fight between our best warriors, and the first person to volunteer was our DM's monk. This, of course, means that the entire one-shot was planned from the beginning to be a showcase of our DM's character abilities. We were just supposed to, watch. In the end, Monk won the fight, and the alchemist and I were allowed, after asking multiple times, to take part in a for-fun rematch. This was not the worst work of the DM, but it certainly was a dark blemish on an already pretty bad few years of D&D. But we've all grown up by now, so rest assured, none of us put up with that kind of game anymore. There was a brief moment where I thought the ending sentence was going to be, oh yeah, this was really bad, but our DM really improved afterwards, only for the OP to correct me by saying, no, it gets worse. I'm kind of curious as to how it gets worse, but at the same time, I kind of don't want to know. I had a short horror story with my group over the last week that ended last night. Well, not my group, just one player. He's a good friend, and honestly a good player, just a little quirky. Some of his worst quirks were on display last week. So, onto the story. Last week I started a new group and invited one of my long-term players named Adam to join. When the group arrived, I gave him the option of what to play. I presented standards like D&D and Pathfinder. I throw in some off-the-wall indie games like Besom and Mutants and Masterminds. Adam specifically shot down Besom. He didn't like the free-form character creation system. The rest of the party chose either D&D or Pathfinder, which he said he was good with. I chose D&D because I had the books. I then gave the party the choice for the level. Adam said he didn't care, and the rest of the group said level 1. I was planning to start with the group already knowing each other and somewhat established adventurers, so I gave them level 3 instead. I also figured this would let them start with their subclasses, still low level like they wanted. We spend the rest of the session making characters. Everyone but Adam, that is, who couldn't think of anything. Happens. I send him home with a few books so he can make something between sessions. He calls me Wednesday. I want to play a giant. These conversations went on for days, but here I cut them down for convenience. Dude, you guys want it to be low level. I know, so I'll be really stupid. Most giants are pretty stupid, but they're high level because of their sheer size and strength. Well, what if I'm blind, and I can only have one arm on top of being really dumb? So you're gonna be really high level and a drag on the party? Yeah, would that make me level 3? No, character denied. Next day, can I play a chimera? That's not even a playable race. Later that day, how about a kobold that is actually the reincarnation of a dead god with their powers and own followers? Oh, this is a concept he's had in the work for years. At level 3. That seems a little too powerful. How about he doesn't know he's a god, but that could be like an adventure arc with him? No, that doesn't sound really fun. Look, that's the best you're gonna get. Then how about I just play a kobold? I reminded him about the kobolds in my world. Their entire race had been twisted and transformed by Tiamat to be completely subservient, so the horrible things she did. They're more like house elves in Harry Potter than the kobolds we know. He has known this for 3 years. Yeah, I don't want to play one then. The day before game day, how about a medium-sized gem dragon? No, what? Those are too powerful. You guys chose low level. Okay, but what about a medium size? Okay, hold on. It's not just the fact that these are high-level creatures. What about the fact that these are not species who can play in D&D? These are not playable characters. Am I missing something? Is there some silver dragon homebrew that I just haven't... Hold on. Ah, D&D Wiki. What was I expecting? Okay, look, the only way you could play a silver dragon is if you were really young, like mentally 7. Alright, that sounds fun. Game day. I spent the night thinking and decided to let him know what it would mean. Dude, I'm not gonna put a kid dragon in danger. Should be noted that one of my players is a teacher. There will be no questing. The party would be like your babysitter. So, what's the difference between that and the kobold? The kobold would be doing chores, and the dragon would be doing juice boxes and nap times. Look, every character you proposed would have been acceptable in Big Eyes, Small Mouth? I'm pretty sure that's the game. The medium-sized dragon, the chimera, the giant, even the godly kobold. But you said you didn't want to play that game. You guys chose D&D. You chose low-level characters. I've had 3 other people make low-level D&D characters because that's what you chose. Can you please make a Dungeons and Dragons character? Considering that the story was posted in the first place, I assume that this guy did not do that. And yeah, that certainly sucks. You need to play within the limitations of the system that you chose. Now look, limitations can be bent, rules can be adjusted, but sometimes you just need to go with the flow of what the game presents. And trying to play a straight up silver dragon, yeah, that might present some issues both on the player side and the DM side. Now there is one thing I do want to clarify. You can adjust the rules of your own homebrew world, and I myself am very open to that. Frankly, I think the kobold player character should have just been allowed to happen. It's not that unlikely that one single kobold avoided Tiamat's control. I don't think that's completely out of the realm of possibility, and I think you should be open to making slight adjustments to small parts of your homebrew worlds. Like for example, one of my players was making a dwarven character. Now, he was making a dwarf from the land of Ardinia, and many of those dwarves have facial tattoos. He did not want his character to have facial tattoos, and I said, okay, and that was that. That was it. There was no big deal because one dwarf not having facial tattoos isn't that big of a deal in the first place. Not trying to bash the DM, they have the right to make decisions like that in their homebrew world. I just want to open up the possibility you are allowed to adjust things if it suits the player characters and you yourself as the game master. Never posted before, but I'm currently DMing a Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign for a gaming society, unpaid with my own materials, VTT sub, and so on. And one of my players really rubs me the wrong way. Note that there were no applications or interviews for this campaign. Seats were given on a first-come, first-served basis, with first-time players, which this person is, slightly prioritized. This person flat out told me and the other players what time we'd be playing, didn't ask, told. We play every other week on Mondays. Despite this, she's missed 2 sessions so far. We've only had 5 in total and been late for 2 others, despite being the one who insisted on an early start time and keeps asking if we're playing every off Monday. I also send reminders a few days in advance and keep the session date in the Discord channel topic and the Roll20 campaign page. I can basically never tell if she's coming to the session or not. This also happens with 2 other players, but to a lesser extent. She also missed one of these sessions because she couldn't get her headphones to work, despite the rest of the group spending an hour of game time trying to help her. By the 5th session, she still doesn't understand how Roll20 works at all, can't use her spells, etc. I set everything up for her. I've held her hand every step of the way. Her combat turns take as long as the 5 other players put together. She insists on being the party face, but gets angry when she fails, negative charisma, and has no social proficiencies. She gets mad when I said that halflings don't have dark vision. Why? They just don't have dark vision. I don't Okay, anyway. Keeps replying to telepathic messages between the party cleric and an NPC. Cleric reminds her of this, audibly annoyed, nothing changes. 5 sessions in, she's still missing a skill proficiency. I've reminded her every time. She randomly AFKs and has a tendency to sign off whatever device she's on. Connectivity is terrible and IT skills are just none. Comes back, interjects, needs yet another recap too. This is on top of the one she already needed at the start of the session because she's half an hour late, gave no warning, and then we start playing, not wanting to waste any more game time. I was admittedly a bit apprehensive on running a game for total strangers, and the campaign has had its hiccups. I'm not an amazing DM by any stretch, but it's kind of grown on me. I genuinely enjoy the other players' company, well, most of the time anyway, and well, we have fun, except for this one player's antics. None of the others have complained though, and I can't help but wondering if I'm the that guy of the story myself. I'm not really going to bother with the whole am I the asshole thing because, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but also, eyes up, because we've got part 2. So I'd resolved to give my problem player a stern talking to once I had the time and the spoons. I've had a lot on my plate recently, though that's thankfully over. And just mention punctuality on a general level in the campaign's Discord chat. We had 1 session scheduled before the busy business in my life would end, and I figured I'd use that as an opportunity to see if she would take the cue from that general statement to improve her behavior. I posted reminders of the game the day before the session and on the day too. Game time rolled in. She was nowhere to be seen. Fair enough. Private, stern talking to it is. That is, up until 3 hours into the session, and with about half an hour of game time remaining, she shows up and asks if she can still join. When I grudgingly agree, she asks for a recap. I don't provide one and instead tell her to piece it together from context clues because we were in the middle of a bit of quest-related roleplay that was basically tailored, oh yeah, to her character. It had been put off due to her random absences, but as I'd pretty much run out of excuses to keep doing so, the others just progressed it. Just as the quest NPC was expressing their regret that her character couldn't make it, she suddenly showed up. We did the roleplay, then wrapped up the session, and then I told her in front of everyone that she could either step up her game or get out of mine. She started to cry, apologized profusely, and I felt instantly like the worst person in the world again. I started to apologize profusely. It was a mess. Apparently, she still wants to play in my campaign. She is at the very least aware of the problems now, and the other players seemed understanding of both sides. The cleric expressed her concerns as well. For what it's worth, it feels easier to breathe around that campaign now. The rest of the players seem more like a group, and the one who had previously just sat around in silence took some initiative in the session. But boy, I'm not looking forward to the fallout. I guess if there's anything to take from this story, it's this: don't let problems fester to the point where they inevitably come out. The coming out involves flaring tempers and bad decisions. If only I could live by my own teachings. I am happy that this problem was exposed eventually. At least someone said something. That is good. Hopefully there will be peaceful resolution to this problem. Our problem player is not committing horrible crimes by any means by being late and being inattentive during sessions. However, after about 2 months of campaign at this point, you should be trying to at least improve those things. I don't expect people to be perfect, but I expect people to be putting, at the very least, some kind of best foot forward. I'm going out of my way to prep these games. The other players are trying their best. I expect you to honor our dedication by being at least a little bit dedicated yourself. You don't need to drop everything for D&D. You don't need to spend hours studying up the books, but at the very least, put some effort into it. If you have questions, ask them. If you set the schedule, stick to it. This isn't a video game you're playing by yourself. This is a group of people. You can't just leave them hanging like they don't matter, because they do. They should. They're other human beings who are taking time out of their day to play. And if you can't, if you want something more casual, that's okay, but you need to find a more casual group. Hopefully that won't be necessary here, and this group will be able to continue as is. Hopefully, at least. I was sitting at the gaming store, trying desperately to get a gaming group together for some Savage Worlds Ripper action. A really fun setting, by the way. When I couldn't help but notice the Fate game in the corner was getting louder and louder. Everyone else in the gaming store stopped too. No more magic cards was shuffled. Warhammer factions stopped dead in their tracks, calling a temporary ceasefire. The dungeon-dwelling beasts politely halted their attacks upon the player characters. Everyone in the back room was focused on a singular question: why is that table being so loud? Suddenly, dice were flying across the room, followed by glass aquarium beads. The guy who threw both stood defiantly, screaming a few epithets. The DM rose, grabbed the thrower by the hoodie, and began his assault. I mean, perhaps assault is overselling it a bit, but it doesn't sound as cool when I say he kind of slapped the guy multiple times. It had broken up almost as soon as it started. Both were told to leave. I helped a few others pick up the random pieces of gaming paraphernalia from the well-worn carpet. We piled them in the corner of the table. The remaining players of the Fate table stood dumbfounded. Yeah, hey guys, what happened? Oh, the GM told him he can't invoke one of his aspects. In Fate, your character has traits known as aspects. These are broadly defined characteristics that act as narrative devices, potential bonuses, and even potential drawbacks in the form of compels. For instance, if your character has the aspect, "So punk rock it hurts," you could successfully argue that your player might get a bonus for barroom brawls, playing an instrument, or knowing how much a rare punk cassette is worth. They are all reasonable ways to invoke an aspect. Damn it, that description just made me want to go back to playing Hi-Fi Rush. Give me a second.
Hi, guys.
What? Yeah, I know. Just give me a second. It's been 3 hours. Oh, okay. Get back to it. Well, what if the GM deems you can't invoke that aspect because it's not relevant? Option A is to shrug and say something like, can't blame me for trying, and then you just roll without any sort of bonus. Or option B, turn it into a screaming match, throw things, get slapped about your head and shoulders, and get tossed out the gaming store. To quote the movie, Kung Pao, Enter the Fist. I do not know what aspect prompted the argument. The punk rock thing was just my example, but I beg upon your good senses, my dear readers, please never choose option B. Fictional violence is fun. It's why many RPGs have so many weapon proficiencies and stuff. It's why John Wick doesn't settle his disputes with a cup of tea and a hearty debate. But real violence, yeah, not so much. There's always a better way to handle disagreements, especially at the gaming table. And I never did get that game of Rippers together. A pity. First and foremost, I really like your writing style. Very clean, easy to read, and fun. Awesome. Good to see, especially on Reddit. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna stop sounding like an English teacher real quick to just say, this guy is right. Don't get violent over a TTRPG. We've spoken in the past about how getting angry isn't fun, but this guy got beyond angry. He got violent, which is almost always unnecessary. Getting violent because, in essence, you couldn't get advantage on a roll is insane and not something that should be normalized at any table, though luckily I'm sure you guys are all aware of that. The most optimal way to solve stuff like this is to talk about it with your game master after the game. If you really think you should have gotten advantage, you should ask. One time I didn't give an artificer advantage on a roll to fix something up, and the artificer, given their background, thought it would have been reasonable, and I agreed. The artificer talked to me after the game, which is the best time to do it. Interrupting a game in general is not typically ideal, though of course interrupting with violence, well, yeah, that's particularly bad. This story is from my freshman to sophomore years of high school, about 4-ish years ago. For a year or two, I've been playing as the only girl, later realized I was non-binary, they, she, but anyway, with other teen boys around my age and another girl a few years older than us. Community college age, she acted like our mom and older sister. We had all met at our local D&D library day of play and continued playing after. We played several different campaigns on and off again, and this was the one where we started a new campaign. There is one thing you have to know about this campaign. The DM had a giant ego. He got into the local prestigious college at 14. Admitted later his dad taught there, so that might have been how he got in. He had a huge ego about being smart, but was also aggressive, a murder hobo, and really insecure in that 15-year-old boy way, and tried to make everyone else feel insecure too. For this new campaign, I wrote up a backstory about a girl growing up in a Dionysian-type cult that was obsessed with wine, drugs, madness, and polyamory. She was a lesbian, a giant flirt, and a hopeless romantic. I sent him the character, and he approved of her and her backstory. Every other character was a guy, so I didn't have many attempts to flirt with other characters, just NPCs. Everyone cleared with me. They would have been okay with me flirting before every session though, so I had consent and I would constantly double and triple check during the sessions too. Then my DM invites his new partner, who decides to play a female character. I ran everything by them and they were okay with it, along with the DM. All of our sessions were over Discord, so people would typically message each other privately during the game. I checked in with them and they were good, like I did with everyone. And we kept chatting over text while we were on call. Me flirting, and with my crappy dice rolls that night, I kept failing and it was all good fun. The lingo was close to teen girl talk between the two of us. You're so sweet, I love insert thing about you, etc, etc. Then suddenly, I get kicked from the call and banned from the server. Apparently, when they started dating, my DM had their Discord and Instagram accounts because he demanded them, apparently. I went on a date with him once, and he seemed a little unhinged, so I did not continue. And I guess he was reading our messages. That, coupled with the fact I was flirting in-game, sent him over the edge and sent me this.
You little... I'm fucking livid beyond comprehension. You better say something right the fuck now. Some kind of pathetic fucking groveling had better slither out your ugly ass, feculent forehead stand of a head within the next 5 minutes, or I'm gonna make a hibachi stir fry out of your tendons and feed it to the man-eating lemurs of dry water.
Okay, the best detail about this, the most phenomenal bit. He edited that, so beyond a shadow of a doubt, he definitely added all those creative insults in after the fact, which just makes this all the more pathetic. And honestly, I'm a bit jealous. I'm a bit jealous myself because unintentionally, this guy is funnier than I've been all month. A lot of what's blocked is just him saying my in real life name, telling me to die, and swearing me out over my apparent flirting with them. I was banned and they broke up 2 weeks later due to him being like this. I am sure this might have been part of them breaking up. This actually gave me trauma about playing D&D again due to how toxic the experience was. I realized it was stupid at the time, but I was 14 and not used to people treating me like this at all. I ended up meeting and befriending the partner again a few months later in an Instagram chat with other people who went through his abuse that was recommended to me by a mutual friend at the time. From there, I did actually form a crush on them, but not before. Nothing ever happened, and yeah, we eventually fell out of touch. I eventually became a volunteer dungeon master at the library. I met the original group and told the woman I volunteered for I never wanted him at my table ever, because he would still eventually come by and play. I never wanted to talk to him again. TLDR, I played a flirty lesbian character and flirted with the DM's partner's female character when the partner was good with it and the DM was... he was originally good with it. I DM'd them and we were having a conversation during the game with no flirting. My DM saw the messages and swore me out, told me to, die, and gave me trauma from playing D&D for 7 months. Man, I respect you for even going to that library in the first place. That is something that's way out of my purview personally. I had some negative experiences with a person, and the moment I found out they were in my town, I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to skip. I didn't go through with it, but still, the temptation was there. Look, point is, I respect you a lot. This person got through all of the checklists. They did everything right for doing a flirty character at the table, getting consent, and even asking for consent during the games. At least that's what I understand from the DMs. That's good. That's really good. Double checking is not something I normally recommend just because, I don't know, I didn't think of it. But honestly, yeah, if you have access to DMs and it's not being disruptive, then double checking with a player before you flirt with them is good. Gets them in the right mindset and maybe makes the roleplay interaction even better. They did everything right and the DM still freaked out. Now, I will take at least a little bit of solace in knowing that this is a child at 15. You're insane and stupid. Don't tell me you weren't. You were insane and stupid when you were 15. We all were. But if I'm being honest, I don't think any of us were this insane and stupid when we were 15. Holy hell. Those are not the kind of things you can just say casually. Teenagers have the ability to think independently and to realize what's right and what's wrong. Being young is not an excuse for what this guy said at all, by any means. Hopefully with age, this person will grow out of their incel phase, but I think we all know from experience that's not always the case. Alright, and with that, we are at the end of today's episode of RPG Horror Stories. If you guys enjoyed, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out our Tavern Adjacent podcast, where we talk about all things tabletop while also taking some of your horror stories. And while you're there in the cards, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content right as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you can't think of comments, leave the comment just a tad unhinged to let me know you made it to the end of the video. And that's like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Farewell. Oh my god. Are you serious right now? The video is over!